if you are in the process of buying a house and you just got your offer accepted, it's very important that you understand everything that's going to happen during the next couple of weeks. You might be wondering, what's next? And you're not alone. A lot of people have these questions when they are in escrow. And what I'm doing today is explaining every single part so we don't leave anything to chance. So I'm going to share my screen real quick so we can kick this off. So when you got your offer accepted, there are a couple of things that will start happening immediately after, right? You have a 48-hour kickoff, which is when everyone is situating themselves within the transaction. The selling side is getting ready with everything they're going to need to send you. The escrow company is getting instructions by the sellers and the buyers as to what is going to happen during this contract period. Then you have inspections, which typically occur as soon as we open escrow. They will get booked, they will get scheduled, and we will have a professional certified inspector out there checking out the house that you're about to buy in the next couple of days. We already have a person that we work with, that we've worked with for the last couple of years. He's very honest, very meticulous, and always helps us get the most credits for any repairs that are needed at the property that you're buying. So we can recommend them so that you can actually just use who we're always using, or if you really desire it, you can find someone who you choose who can go and inspect the property. If you decide to do so, then we can coordinate together as to when that person would be able to access the property. And when we are there, then you're actually going to be you're going to be getting a tour of the big ticket items that you're going to look at the end that mostly concern you. Then you have the appraisal, which is going to be ordered by the lender, by the bank. And then you have the underwriting process that the bank takes all the information that they have. And then after the loan gets approved, you get to sign the loan docs with a mobile notary, or we can schedule it at our office, or we can schedule it at the escrow's office, and then you would get keys and possession to the property. So the first 24 to 48 hours is when everything starts kicking into motion. And let's say that we've been in a negotiation process back and forth with the listing agent, with the sellers, and we agree to terms. We finally find that, the favorable terms for us have been determined to be the best ones, and we sign their counteroffer, or they sign our counteroffer. Essentially, we get this accepted, right? So escrow will open more likely than not the next day. If we get this done in the middle of the night, for example, then once we wake up the next day, we can get escrow opened. Or if we do this during the morning, like before 10 a.m., we can still get escrow open that same day. You will get an email from the escrow company. They will be introducing themselves to you, especially their escrow officer, and they will hold your funds and coordinate the closing. Every time that you get a message or an email from escrow, my recommendation is that you reply as soon as possible. Even if you don't have like the full picture or the full response, just a quick message saying, I received this, thank you, I will get back to you shortly, is going to help a lot to keep things flowing and everything to be happening smoothly. If you're not able to do that, don't worry. As long as you can get to an email, within the hour or within a couple hours after they send it to you, that should be fine. Because I know a lot of you might be working, you might be in the middle of things, right? Or it might be kind of late at night and you're already getting ready to go to sleep. So just be mindful and reply promptly whenever escrow emails you. Then you're going to have an earnest money deposit due within 3 days of escrow opening. The earnest money deposit is typically going to be 1% of the purchase price. So just for using round numbers, if the house is $1 million, you have a 1% deposit, which is $10,000. You can wire transfer this. Escrow is going to give you the instructions to do so. I can help you with that as well if it's kind of confusing or not easy to understand. Or you can also write a cashier's check and then you can mail it to escrow, or if you feel more comfortable, you can deliver it yourself. Most of the escrow companies that are going to be working with us are going to be in San Diego or at least in Southern California. So this goes towards your purchase. Anything that you put in there is 100% refundable if we cancel the escrow and decide to walk away. But if we continue and you have some money due at the end, then they're going to take it, or the portion that they need from this deposit, because they're going to hold it in the escrow account. Then during the first 24 to 48 hours, the lender gets notified. We send them the RPA, which is the residential purchase agreement, and they start working on opening up your file with the lender. Ordering the appraisal happens right after you sign a couple of disclosures that the lender will send to you. So again, the sooner that you sign those disclosures, the sooner that they can order the appraisal, and the sooner that we can have the appraisal inspection and then get the report, and then everything keeps moving very, very smoothly. Then the lender will start verifying your documents, verifying your employment, stuff like that, and they will be locking your interest rate. So it's very important for you to always reply promptly, like I said. Everything's going to be done via DocuSign. Escrow instructions are going to probably be through an escrow portal that they use for increased security. So if this happens, please just be mindful that you have to probably create an account with their portal that's different from DocuSign, hop on there and fill out the information that they're asking you to fill out. If you sign everything as soon as possible, you can keep the 30-day timeline on track. But like I said, if we tend to wait longer for each step of the process, then cumulatively it's going to be very, very long. The money timeline. This is what you're going to have as the payments that are due and when they're due and exactly how much. The first one is going to be the earnest money deposit that I was talking about. It has to be within 3 days of opening escrow. It's between 1% and 2% of the purchase price, but sometimes we can negotiate something that's a little bit lower. If that's your case, and I already spoke to you about this, then perhaps it's not going to be 1%. So just whatever the amount is, you want to wire this or send a cashier's check. Then the home inspection fee. When you schedule it, you're not going to have to pay it, right? You're going to pay it after they do the inspection, and when you get a link to your email saying the report is ready, but in order for us to access the report, you have to pay. It's going to be between $400 and $600 depending on what type of property you're buying. If you're buying a smaller property, like a condo or a mobile home, for example, then it would be closer to the $400. If it's a single family house, it'll be like a $600 inspection fee. And if it's a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex, then it will keep going higher. But this is just the home inspection. There's also a sewer scope that I always recommend that you get, because typically the aesthetic parts of the house and everything that's over the ground, on the ground, is easy to see, but what's under is really hard to see unless you have a sewer scope. So they're going to put a camera through the sewer line to check the condition of the sewer line. That's going to be around $250 extra, but this will also get paid to the professional inspector. Then you have the VA appraisal fee. You pay that when the lender orders it, and it's going to be around $900. You have to pay that out of pocket. It's a requirement for every loan to get a VA appraisal. So the next thing that you're going to pay, it's going to happen almost at the end, which is the down payment and closing. Some people might not have a down payment, right? You're a VA loan buyer, but some VA loan buyers will have a down payment. And if you are someone who doesn't have a VA loan, then you're going to require a down payment. 3.5% for FHA, and conventional anywhere from 3% to like 20%, right? So if we had seller credits negotiated into your offer, into your contract, those are going to offset any remaining closing costs. But if you still have a pending amount due at the end, even after the seller credits covered part of your closing costs, Then at the end, we will give you that amount. Escrow will balance the docs and they will tell you what amount that is so you can send it in. The home inspection is going to happen between day 2 and day 12. It says day 1, but rarely do we have someone who's so fast that they go in and inspect the home the same day that the escrow opened. But what gets inspected? You get the structure and foundation, the roof and the attic, the electrical system, plumbing, the heating and cooling, the windows and doors, and everything in between. You are also going to get a termite and pest inspection required because every VA loan and also an FHA loan requires a termite inspection. The seller is typically going to pay for this unless we negotiate it otherwise. We'll just make sure that it's in the contract and you will know ahead of time if you're required to do this or the seller is required. So both of these are going to happen like right around the same time. And what it's going to uncover is going to help us to negotiate either credits or repairs for you. What can you expect during the home inspection? It's going to be taking like around an hour. You don't need to be there the whole time. When you show up, you will arrive at the end. Why? Because we want to leave the inspector to do his job. And if we're there and we're always like bugging him and asking him questions, he might miss something. So I recommend that you get there at the end and the inspector will walk you through any major findings in person. And that's what's the most valuable part about this. So just get there at the end. After the report, you'll get a full report. We review it together and we decide what, if anything, to ask for. The optional add-ons, like I said, is the sewer scope. Super recommended unless like you're doing like a condo where the HOA is in charge of like the communal like plumbing and all of that. I also recommend a roof specialist if we find something in the inspection, an HVAC specialist if we find something in the inspection, and then anything past that is also recommended. So like if we find something with the sewer or the plumbing, we will bring a plumber along so he can give us like a quote to see how much fixing or repairing or replacing that will be. So all of these will be optional, but I highly recommend that we do all of these. Then when we have all the findings, we will have two options. Option A, the seller fixes it. Option B, we get a credit at closing. So if we decide to go with option A and we ask the seller to fix it, the seller will hire their own contractor before closing. You will verify that the repairs were completed. It's less control over the quality of work, but regardless, we will make sure that they get a licensed contractor, that we see the invoices, that they paid them, and a lot of documentation that will help us evidence the fact that it was done correctly. And this is perhaps the best for health and safety reasons and issues because this will be done prior to the close of escrow. So if we go with option B, most of these will get done after the close of escrow. So in this case, with option B, the seller will give you the money at closing. You hire your own contractor after the close. You get full control over the quality and timing. And it's what I recommend in most situations because we have more control. It's a contractor that we know that does a good job, and you can bring in your own contractor as well. And it's our timeline, as opposed to the other one that might represent a couple of quality issues. So just a quick note, if the appraiser flags a minimum property requirement health and safety item, the seller must fix these in order for the loan to close. So that will be separate and different from the inspection that you are performing in the property. Those are items that might come up in the appraisal. So that's a perfect segue to the next section, which is the VA appraisal. This will get ordered by the lender, and typically it will get completed in week 2 or 3 of the escrow process. Sometimes it could take longer, and I mean completed, not necessarily just the inspection. Maybe the inspection will happen during week 1 or 2, but then for them to give us the report back, it might take a lot longer. Sometimes if they have a lot of work and they're not doing everything as fast as they should. So the appraiser has two jobs. One, to confirm value. The appraiser will confirm that the home is worth at least what you're paying. So this protects you from overpaying. And the second job is to verify the home meets the VA minimum property requirements, that it's safe, that it's sound, and that it's sanitary. There are three possible outcomes, right? If it comes in at value, that's the green light. We move forward to underwriting. If it comes in low, we negotiate the price down. You cover the gap or you walk. I never recommend that people cover the gap unless they really want the property. Most likely, if they're not willing to come down, we will just walk. I'll guide you through that process. And sometimes what can come out is that MPR issues are flagged. Seller must repair before the loan can fund. So we will negotiate who pays. 99% of the time, it will be the seller because they're, they're interested in selling their property. And I don't want you to have to pay that. But after that, we're going to get the underwriting started and the loan approval process. This is happening behind the scenes, and it works to get you to that clear to close, that CTC that we all love. If you have unemployment, they will verify your employment. If you have your own business, they will verify your income. Then they will also ask you for your assets and your bank statements. They will look at the appraisal report. They will get a title report from the title company that's getting hired by the seller, and all the property details along with a certificate of eligibility if you're a VA loan. And then if everything goes according to plan, which we'll make sure that even before we get into escrow, you're very close to getting approved because you would be pre-approved. We get a clear to close, the green light. That means we can close the loan and you can get your keys. Very important. That's why we put a very alarming symbol, an icon down here saying critical. Do not do any of these during or after closing. Don't open new credit cards, please, or any debt. Why? Because the bank will look at you like a higher risk, and because your credit score will move down if you acquire more debt. So if you were getting a preferential rate because your credit score was above 750 and you had the best rate available, and due to that we were able to make it happen at the purchase price that we came in during the contract, well, if you drop your credit score under 750, you're not going to get the preferential rate, the best rate possible. You might get a higher rate. And if you do that and that happens, it's going to mess up the whole deal and move everything around to the point that sometimes I've seen properties not closing and sales not happening because people acquire some debt. So please do not open new credit cards or debt. Do not change jobs or go self-employed. Please, because again, that represents a huge risk to the bank that's going to lend you the money. Do not make large purchases with the credit cards or with the debit cards that you already have, because if it's debit cards and it belongs in your assets and the lender already calculated your assets for all this, and all of a sudden you don't have that same amount by the end of the contract period, it's going to really ruin your chances and ruin the deal. And also don't acquire more debt. If you do a credit card and all of a sudden you go out and you buy a new car or new furniture under your credit card, it's going to highly affect your loan. And do not move large sums between accounts without telling your lender. If the lender says yes, after you ask them if this is something doable because emergencies happen and life happens, then do it by all means. But if that's not the case, don't even touch them. You're going to get seller disclosures that are going to be given to you. These are what the seller must disclose so that you know all the material defects and things that were done to the property. So you're going to get a lot of invoices about past repairs, if there were any water damage that the property has had, any HOA rules and an HOA package that is going to highlight the community rules at that homeowners association, and just in general anything that might be in there. The other thing is a natural hazards disclosure, just stating if there's any risk to natural hazards around that area. You will receive this early in the escrow, and I suggest that you read every page carefully and bring me any questions. What to look for in the seller disclosures. Obviously, past water intrusion or flooding is a big one that will also be able to come out during the home inspection period. Roof repairs or replacements, any unpermitted work. Why? Because if there's been unpermitted work and all of a sudden the city has a vendetta or an agenda to go out and look for people who didn't do permanent work for their houses, including garage conversions, ADU builds and stuff like that, then it might affect you. So we'll look for that. Then any HOA special assessments or disputes, meaning that the HOA is asking for more money than what they should get. So if anything's on there, we will let you know, or any death or crime on the property, and any no neighborhood noise or nuisance. Disclosures rarely kill deals. That's why I included this in the notes, but they inform you repair requests and give you leverage in negotiations. So we'll go through these during the first week of the escrow. And then you have a period at the end that's very exciting because you're getting to the end and you're going to get your key soon, where you sign the docs. You have to do wet signatures, which mean that the ink is wet, right? It's not an electronic signature like most of the documents you've signed before this. So 1 or 2 days before closing and about, I want to say 1 or 2 days after clear to close, your documents will go to the escrow title office. A notary will walk you through the signing. And this can be up to 100 pages or more, so don't panic. It takes like about 30 to 40 minutes to sign everything. And at that point, we will schedule them to either go to your house, to meet you at a Starbucks, or to meet you at our office in Chula Vista, or to meet you at the escrow office of the escrow that's in charge of the deal. And then you'll sign, and everything will get explained to you, what you're signing. It takes like I said, 30 to 40 minutes for you to go through the whole thing. Then you wire your funds. When you wire your funds, typically it's going to be on or before signing day. You will go to the bank. They will give you the exact amount that you have to wire to escrow. And then once you do that, you will owe $0, right? The reason why I'm saying is once you do that, because before that you have like a liability, you have a debt that you have to pay to escrow. And after that, you should be good. Yes, you have $0 down, but in some cases, if the seller credits didn't cover all of the closing costs, then you might have to, shell out a couple of bucks. So once you wire the funds, if you have a VA funding fee, you'll actually pay for it there, or it will get rolled into your loan. If you're active duty, this is a must. If you're a veteran, it can be waived if you are at least 10% disabled, 10% rating for a disability that you're getting with the VA. So hopefully you don't have to put anything out of pocket. And then after that, you sign, you wire the transfer, you transfer the wire, you wire your funds, and then you record. The county records the deed in your name. Once recorded, you're legally the homeowner. Yes, this is the most exciting part of the whole process. Even before you hold the keys, you're already the owner. So keys will happen the same day that it records, unless there's a term in the contract that states that the seller might stay in the house for a couple of days. You negotiated a rent back period, which is basically that you're renting the property because you're the owner now. They're not the owner anymore, but they're going to be living there for a couple of days when they're moving their stuff out. So if this is the case, then you can't get the keys technically until they leave. But if that's the case, I will let you know in advance. I'll be there. We'll celebrate. We'll have the key day and everything. So just to recap, here is the 30-day escrow timeline. Day 1 to 3, the offer gets accepted and you send your earnest money deposit. Day 1 to 5, the appraisal gets ordered, you sign the loan disclosures, and then you pay for the appraisal. And the inspection will happen between day 1 and 12. You will pay for the inspection report once it's available, and you pay for it, we will draft the request for repairs and try to negotiate the repairs or the credits for the repairs. Then day 14 to 21, the appraisal is completed, right? Perhaps before that, you might have paid and then the inspection part will happen, but the actual report, when we get it back, it will be between day 14 and 21. Then we will get the clear to close once underwriting happens with the lender and they accept your loan and you're approved. Once we get the clear to close, then you schedule a time to sign the loan docs in person, and then once it closes and records, you get the keys. So that's in a nutshell what will happen during the 30-day period. The most important part about all this, the reason why you need a realtor and you hire someone who has a license and who has experience doing this, is because I'll be with you every single step of the way, right? Every single step of the way. So don't be alarmed. Everything that happens for a reason. Everything, it's like a dance that's happening, and we've practiced for it for a long time. And you're kind of just witnessing it, and sometimes like you're involved in the dance, but here's the main thing, like we know what we're doing. We know which steps go after the ones that we're doing right now. We know how the dance is going to end. We know how long the dance is going to take. So trust us, trust the process, and most importantly, congratulations for getting your offer accepted. It's really, really exciting, and I'm really proud of you.